It's time again for another episode of Ask the Lawyer, and this time we're asking the lawyer about what you can expect if you sue someone for causing a personal injury. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest is attorney Michael Warshauer of the Warshauer Law Group in Atlanta. Michael, thank you for making some time for us today to answer our questions.
Glad to be here.
So you probably get asked this question all the time, and I'm interested to see how you handle it. What if someone says, "What is my personal injury case worth? What can I get?"
Well, that's always a good question, and obviously it varies with every single case, but I can share with you the formula that I use in every single case. So
Great.
There's 4 elements. The first element is, how badly are you injured? What is the loss? The second element is there anyone who's responsible for that loss, who can compensate you for that loss, who has any money or insurance? Because again, you could have a horrific injury, but if there's no one who has any money, that obviously affects the value. The third thing I look at for every single case is, how strong is the liability? How strong is the case? So we're going to look at that. Was it a red light with 15 eyewitnesses, or is it a more complex case? Or is it two people, both of whom say they had the green light? Obviously, all of these things go into the value of what is my case worth. And then there's a fourth element, and this fourth element I call sex appeal. Is there something about this case that's going to add value? For example, a drunk driver. Your injuries could be a broken leg and a broken arm caused by a little old lady on her way to Sunday school who reached down because her Bible fell out of her lap and momentarily lost control, versus someone who's on their way to a crack deal who's drunk. Those two cases are going to have different value because one has sort of negative sex appeal, if you will, and the other has positive sex appeal. It's a more valuable case because of that. So that's the process that we're going to use in every single case that comes before us. Those 4 elements will be considered, and then we can help you understand an individual case.
Are there different types of damages I can have awarded in a personal injury case?
As a general rule, there's going to be 2 kinds of damages related to the person. If it's an automobile collision, there's going to be a third element, and that third element would be property damage. How much damage was done to my car? Was my car totaled? But the 2 that relate to human beings generally are considered special damages. I like to describe those as things we can add up with a calculator. What are your medical bills? What are your lost wages? And that's going to be past and future medical bills and past and future lost wages and benefits. So it's not just your hourly rate that we would be looking at, but also things like contributions to your retirement plan, the effect on your ultimate Social Security recovery. All of those things would be special damages. This is what the law calls those.
Okay.
The other kind of damages that a human would suffer are called general damages. A lot of people will call these human damages, or more commonly called pain and suffering damages. So we have what I like to describe as 2 kinds of pain and suffering. We have the ouch. That's, oh my gosh, that really hurts, the physical pain of being injured. And then we have the, oh, what am I going to do now? I can't work, or my face is disfigured. All of these things will add up to the general damages, and we have those also past and future. Mm-hmm. And our job as lawyers is to help a jury understand how serious that injury is to the individual. And sometimes we have experts, particularly on the special damages side, that will help us, economists and people like that. And on the general side, and life care planners in serious cases. In the general side, we're going to be dependent on our client to help a jury understand how this event that someone else caused has changed their life.
Now, I don't know the law. What is the law in Georgia as far as, let's say I'm in an auto accident and maybe I'm partially at fault for the accident. How does that work? Do I have a case? Can I get damages even if I'm partially at fault?
Well, in virtually every case, whether it's a malpractice case, less so in a malpractice case, but in every case, you will find the defendant wants to blame it on the victim. This is what they do. So in Georgia, as well as in many, many states, there's a concept called comparative negligence. So we mostly see this in car wrecks. We see it to some degree in product liability cases also. And that is, so long as the plaintiff in car wrecks, for sure, so long as the injured party is less than 50% at fault, they can still recover. And the way that would work would be, let's assume that a jury comes back and says, your injury is worth $1 million, but you are 25% at fault. What would happen then is that that verdict, that judgment, would be written down to $750,000. But if that same jury comes back and says, your injury is $1 million, considering your special and general damages, as I've just talked about, but you're half at fault, 50-50, under Georgia law, as well as in many, many other states, you would get zero. You have to be less fault than the other people.
Wow.
Now, there is another concept that I think is worth talking about here, and that's called apportionment of damages. Because often you will have the plaintiff, the injured party, as well as 1, 2, 3 other defendants. This is often true in medical malpractice cases, which our firm does a lot of. We'll have one doctor who made one level of mistake, a hospital that contributed, maybe a nurse who also contributed. In those cases, the plaintiff might not be liable at all, but that damage would be apportioned, maybe 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, or maybe 60%, 20%, 20%, whatever the jury thinks, among the various defendants. And what that can do, remember, let's go back to the first question you asked me. First question is, what is my case worth? If a lot of the damages are apportioned to someone who has no money, they have no assets, and they have no insurance, your case is going to be worth less. And that goes to that second element. We're going to look at that when we help you understand whether this is a good decision for you and your family to proceed in pursuing a case.
In a personal injury case, Michael, someone is, let's say they're hospitalized, or at least they can't work, and medical bills are piling up. What are their options as far as paying their medical bills while the case is still being figured out? What do they have? What can they do?
I wish I had an answer to that was the silver bullet.
Right.
What we hope is that people have health insurance. If you have health insurance, your insurance is going to provide you with compensation for your bills as you proceed through. If you got hurt at work, and let's assume you were at work, but you were on a work-related driving mission and you got in a car wreck, workers' compensation would pay your bills. Now, if you have no insurance and you don't have workers' compensation, then you have no one who's in the classic or normal position to pay your bills. So what do we do in those cases? In those cases, we typically are going to look for a third party's help. And we can do that in a variety of ways. Right. Sometimes we'll deal with a doctor who's particularly caring and says, you know, I really want to take care of Mr. Smith. I've known him for a long time. I'll do it on a lien. And if he recovers, just pay me then. Another way we can do it that we're seeing more and more of is there are companies around the country that will provide doctors, and they've worked out a deal where they pay the doctor, and at the end of the case, we pay them. So the doctors get paid in a timely fashion, which is good. Right. The doctors don't have a dog in the fight. That is, they have no lien because they've been paid, which can be good. You don't want your doctor to seem like he wants you to win so he can get paid. Right. That can affect his perceived credibility. But at the end, you may end up paying more for that doctor bill than you otherwise would have. And then there are just general loans out there that people get during the litigation process that can be used. Obviously, our hope is that people have insurance, and we encourage people to go into the marketplace, get insurance, do what you can, because you'll always be better off, whether it's an event caused by someone else or your own carelessness or just an illness. So we do encourage people to get insurance.
What do you say to people, Michael, who may be on the fence, who are like, I'm not sure my injury qualifies me to get an attorney. Maybe I don't need an attorney. Maybe I don't even have a case. What is your advice to them to get them off that fence?
Well, I think the best way to answer any question is to be an educated person. And the way that you obtain education about an injury case or a malpractice case or a defective product case is to consult with an expert. Certainly, they can call our firm. And if they call us, and firms like ours, certainly, and there's no charge for that. So we're going to give you a consultation, and we're going to go through these 4 elements. Maybe other firms don't have them quite as defined as I do. I've been doing this quite a while, and that's just the process that I use. But we're all going to go through these elements. How badly you're hurt? How much did this change your family? How badly do you need this? What is it worth to you? One of the things I often ask people in deciding about a case is, if you ask your neighbor and your neighbor was on a jury, would they be able to find someone responsible? If the answer is no, that may or may not, that may be a good indication that that's not a case. But what you do is you call us, call an attorney, and we're going to walk you through the analysis. We particularly encourage you to do it with malpractice cases. If you have a serious, life-changing result as a result of what you believe to be bad medical care, that's what we want to talk about, because we can help decide whether or not it's a case. We can help you get closure on that. If we tell you it's not a case, a lot of people feel better just knowing that it's not a case. That gives them closure, and they can move on to their lives. Product liability case, we often see where someone will be using a piece of industrial equipment and they get their hand cut off or their leg cut off. And they go, oh, it's really my fault because my hand was under the press or my hand was in a place of danger. And they, and often their workers' compensation lawyer, will not think that, gosh, good machines don't hurt people. Good machines anticipate that all of us will be human and put our hands where they shouldn't be. And they need guards, and they need light curtains, and they need lasers, and they need all interlocks.
Sure.
And so if you call experienced counsel, we can walk you through that process and help you make a good decision. I don't think people have that problem as much in a car wreck. We all see car wrecks every day in our lives, and we have a sense of it's the other guy's fault. And if you feel it's the other guy's fault, consult an attorney. They can help you do that. And I will say this. I do think that getting counsel early is always to your advantage. Get educated on your rights. You're going to find out about the statute of limitations. That is how long you have to do. You're going to find out about what to look for. Think about property damage I mentioned earlier. You also are entitled to depreciation. If you don't ask for that, the insurance companies aren't going to throw out and give you this without you asking. So these are things that competent counsel can share with you. And I very strongly encourage people to make that free call. I don't know anybody who does what we do at the level we do it who would charge for that initial call.
A lot of great information as usual, Michael. Thank you so much. I think you've helped a lot of people today. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, it's my pleasure.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been Atlanta attorney Michael Warshauer, the Warshauer Law Group. If you want the best information about personal injury law, or you're ready to choose a lawyer that lawyers choose, make sure to visit askthelawyer.com, and also take a second to click on the button at the bottom of the screen so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and not miss any future episodes. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with askthelawyer.com.